Fantom is an interesting one to me. It's one of those where, even though I'm the techie, where the non-technical aspects are maybe more interesting than the technical ones. But let's just get into it, and then maybe you can let me know what you think about that afterwards. So let's get going. Fantom. First, I will give you an introduction and a little bit of an overview over the technology that Fantom is or has, and then a tiny view into the ecosystem. And then I want to talk a bit about the potential motivation that could be behind the Fantom project. Because, yeah, as I said, there's a few very interesting things about Fantom that definitely make it different than some of the big contenders, and also the incumbents like Bitcoin, or in the space of smart contracts, particularly Ethereum, of course. So with that, let's get started. What is Fantom in the first place? Fantom is a new blockchain. It comes with a new consensus algorithm, and it also is a smart contract platform. That is what it wants to be mainly. And I should have said new blockchains, by the way, in plural, and why that, as we will see in a moment. So the Fantom coin or token, depending on the platform it's on, is the FTM. I guess a few of you will have heard about that. Fantom can do up to a few thousands of transactions per second. I put a question mark here because I didn't really test that, and a while ago, the Fantom team was speaking about 400, 500,000 transactions per second. They had to let this statement go because they just couldn't do it. But a few thousand a second is definitely still very good, without question. That's still pretty fine. Fantom offers us a time to finality of under 2 seconds. That is a lot faster than on Bitcoin or even on Ethereum. And finality, as a reminder, means that that's the time needed after your transaction has been included in a block or has been published to the network, that your transaction is considered not only included, but really final and irreversible, basically. It won't be undone anymore. So this is pretty fast, which is good, of course. Also, transaction fees are really, really low still on Fantom. This usually does go up when the usage of a new platform increases. But for now, it's extremely cheap to transact on Fantom. And that is, of course, another upside. So it is fast, it is very quick to finality, and it is cheap to transact on it. These are good things. What is the thing that sets Fantom apart on the tech side compared to other projects, to other particularly smart contract platforms? And this is the Lachesis aBFT consensus protocol. What does that mean? For the people that are not totally new to the blockchain or DLT, distributed ledger technology space, they know that, or you know that, consensus is really what is the main thing of blockchains and DLT, and how to find it, how to get it and ensure it, and also that it's correct, is a core feature of different blockchains and DLTs. So Lachesis is the name that the Fantom team chose for their way of doing it. The aBFT stands for asynchronous BFT. BFT again stands for Byzantine fault tolerance. That's something we mentioned a bit more in older webinars, so I can't really go into the details. It's not incredibly important though. Like, if you don't really know what that means right now, it is not a problem. Just keep watching. There are more interesting things that are less technical coming up anyway. But yeah, for those people that do care and or do remember also from older webinars or other sources, of course, it is an asynchronous delegated proof of stake BFT consensus algorithm that Fantom is using. And yeah, they called it Lachesis. Lachesis can deal with up to 33% of malicious nodes. And now some of you might be thinking, well, we have something called the 51% attack on Bitcoin. So why is this only 33%? And there I have to say, yeah, good point. Really, we do have older technologies like Bitcoin, like Ethereum and many others that actually can deal with a higher percentage of malicious nodes than Lachesis can. So in that way, it's not a step forward. Let's put it diplomatically like that. Lachesis can work with up to, and this is a quote from their website, 100 or hundreds of nodes. And again, people that are in the blockchain space a bit longer might be thinking up to hundreds of nodes doesn't sound really like that much. So why is it not thousands or tens or even hundreds of thousands of nodes? And again, here I have to say, yes, I agree. That does not seem like a step forward. It just compares badly with things that have been around for years and years. And the Lachesis protocol is used to secure Fantom blockchains. And here I did use the plural. And why I use blockchains in the plural when talking about Fantom, this will be clear in just a moment. And this is because Fantom is built to have multiple blockchains that work together. So the lowest layer, the main security and consensus layer, is the so-called Lachesis layer. And on top of that is the actual Fantom mainnet, which is called the Opera mainnet. And the Opera net is EVM compatible. So by the way, that means if you are transacting Fantom, FTM on Fantom, you are working with the Opera mainnet. You're not working on the Lachesis layer, actually. So this Opera mainnet is EVM compatible. EVM is the Ethereum virtual machine and is the actual smart contract platform of the Fantom blockchains. And the EVM compatibility is, of course, as mentioned with all the other projects that I've gave a look into that are also EVM compatible, is of course very, very useful, because it means developers can use their existing smart contracts, their existing source code as it is on Fantom, because the EVM is the standard and most smart contracts are developed to work with it. So making any new platform EVM compatible means that this platform from the get-go has potentially tens of thousands of projects, because everything that runs on Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain or any other EVM compatible blockchain or DLT can be ported one-to-one without changes to Fantom. And it also means that they have access from the get-go to the biggest smart contract developer community that exists, because Ethereum was the first and Solidity was the first smart contract language. And that is why to this day, most smart contract developers can speak Solidity much more than other smart contract languages. And of course, there's also the compatibility with things like wallets and other existing DeFi protocols, which are other upsides of being EVM compatible. So that's why they chose that. And that is always a good choice, in my opinion, at least. Projects on Fantom can have their own blockchain and be secured by the Lachesis layer, just like the Fantom Opera mainnet itself is its own blockchain that is secured by the Lachesis layer. So that makes it a little bit interesting, because it means, okay, let's imagine the Ethereum network as one big distributed decentralized computer, but as one computer. The more programs you start on that computer, just as on your phone or on your laptop, the more things are running on one computer at the same time, the slower everything gets. And if every project gets its own blockchain that is then only secured by the main underlying consensus layer, Lachesis, then you can imagine that you're not running all the programs on one computer, but you are running a few on that computer, and then you just start a new computer. And that means that you have much less of a slowdown. So this is good for scalability, definitely. And this also means that Fantom is intended to become at some point not just a blockchain or two blockchains, Lachesis and Opera, but is intended to really become a network of networks at some point in the future. This is their goal, at least. The testnet of Fantom was launched roughly 2 years ago in December. Oh, wrong date here. It was obviously not December 10/18, but December 2018. And the mainnet was launched, so that was close to 3 years ago. And the mainnet launched about 1 year later in December 2019. So it is live for close to 2 years by now. But it only has 47 validators in nearly 2 years. And 47 validating nodes is a tiny, tiny, tiny number. For comparison, Solana and Avalanche have over 1,000 validators, and these are not older than Fantom. And if I recall correctly, Solana the mainnet has been live for quite a bit less than Fantom, and it anyway has over 1,000 validators now. Oh no, excuse me, Avalanche was quite a bit newer than that. In any case, you see the big difference in number of validators. And for security as well as decentralization, we want many validators, many nodes. We only have 47. This is mainly because, of course, interest is one thing. Another thing, and that's really prohibitive, is that if you want to run a validating node, you have to put up a minimum stake of 1 million Fantom, and that's just really expensive, and nearly nobody can afford to put 1 million Fantom down to run a validator. So it's pretty bad, to be honest. 47 validators only after 2 years. So the FTM token has a maximum supply. I think the exact number of the maximum supply doesn't really matter. The FTM token lives on 3 blockchains. One is the Opera mainnet, where it is so the Fantom of mainnet that is called Opera. And on that, it is technically speaking a coin, because their FTM is also used to pay for transaction fees. So it is the native coin of the Fantom and Opera mainnet, and therefore a coin there. And it lives as token on Ethereum. There it's an ERC20 token, and it also lives as token finally on the Binance chain, where there's a BEP2 token. And yes, I do mean Binance chain and BEP2. I do not mean Binance Smart Chain and BEP20. That is not a mistake. As a little reminder, Binance Smart Chain is a smart contract platform that is EVM compatible. It's extremely centralized, but it has much lower fees and is a bit faster until Ethereum 2 comes out. And the Binance Chain is not a smart contract platform. Binance Chain is mainly used, nearly exclusively basically used to work with Binance's DEX, with the decentralized exchange of Binance. So that's the 3 different platforms where the FTM token exists on. And all of these together have a maximum supply that will not be exceeded. So it is not an inflationary currency also. What else can you do with that token? You can stake it. You don't have a minimum stake, which is cool. You can choose to stake without any lockup period, which is also cool. Or you can choose to lock it up for a fixed amount of time, and you can pick up to 365 days for the lockup period. And depending on if you choose a lockup period, and also depending on how long of a lockup period you choose, you get currently between 4 and 13% rewards, staking rewards per year. And that might seem low to some. I think these are pretty reasonable numbers, because these numbers are not like hundreds of percent every year for everyone that make me question how this is supposed to work. So I personally think that's very reasonable numbers for staking rewards. And this would allow Fantom to be staked for a long time, because it will take quite a while until the tokens allocated to the staking rewards are used up. For people who just want to make a very quick buck, maybe that's not the greatest thing, admittedly. One thing that you should be aware of if you want to stake on Fantom, particularly if you want to stake really short term or without any lockup period, is that the unstaking, this is disregarding if you choose a lockup period and how long a lockup period you do choose, disregarding that, unstaking takes up to 7 days on Fantom. So just be aware of that. If you're aware of that, I don't think that's a problem personally. But if you think, oh, I need my stake back now or tomorrow, that's just not going to work. Also, if you choose to lock your Fantom up for a certain period of time, and then you need your money back earlier than that, you can get it back earlier, but you will lose all your rewards. So you will get exactly, let's say you choose to stake for 1 year, and if you need it back after 11 months instead of a full year, you will get all your stake back, but you will get 0 rewards, and the rewards you would have gotten after a year, they will be burned. And another thing that is a bit interesting about staking Fantom is that this allows you to mint SFTM on Fantom Finance. So Fantom Finance is a DeFi platform. It's not the main, it's a DeFi platform of Fantom, and SFTM stands for synthetic FTM. Now, if you think this sounds weird, then I agree with you. We will talk a bit more about Fantom Finance and synthetic FTM in just a moment. Another thing that Fantom allows you to do is governance. So holders of FTM can participate in governance. Now, let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem. The ecosystem is pretty good, I have to admit that. So let's take a look at the website for this, because it just saves me quite a bit of time. Because of the compatibility with the Ethereum virtual machine, and B, also because the Fantom team did do a good job of getting cooperations with, in part, really big and well-known partners. We have already cooperations with between Fantom and Curve Finance, SushiSwap, Kyber, and Matcha. Those are those from all the other DEXs that you see here that I have heard of before. Okay, I've heard of ShibaSwap too, but that doesn't really matter, I think. As you can see, there's even more, but the four I mentioned, definitely Curve, Sushi, Kyber, Matcha, are good and legit and rather big, particularly Curve, Sushi, and Kyber are big platforms. So that is cool that this is already working and integrated. There is many bridges available to bridge your Fantom or other tokens on it between Fantom chain, Binance chain, and Ethereum. So that exists, and you can do that without any problem. Lending and borrowing protocols also exist on Fantom. I personally don't know any of these, but they do exist, and there's quite a few. So that is cool. You can do lending and borrowing as you can do, for example, on Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain as well. You have yield optimizers available. The one I've heard of before, or the two here, are Yearn Finance and Autofarm. But as you can see, there's quite a few more as well. So that's pretty all right. And then NFT platforms are there already as well. And to wrap this up, quite a few other tools. And finally, wallets, again, the compatibility to Ethereum virtual machine, as well as the money that is behind Fantom, and the work that the team did to get together with other projects does pay off. So they have their own wallet, of course, and they are MetaMask compatible, Coinbase, Trust Wallet, Bitkeep, OKEx, the others I don't really know, and maybe particularly worth noting is also with the Ledger, with the hardware wallet, your Fantom is compatible as well. So that is pretty cool for an ecosystem. You do have all the things you want, actually, and some of these you know from other, particularly the big ones I mentioned, you already know from other platforms like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and others. So that is pretty good. Let's go on then with the presentation. The ecosystem basically has two DeFi aspects. So one is the Opera mainnet that has a similar ecosystem. Of course, it's much smaller with a lot less projects, a lot fewer projects than on Ethereum, but it is, because of the compatibility, it is very comparable to the Ethereum world. And you will, I think, over time get more and more things, you know, from Ethereum or again from BSC onto Fantom as well. So this is I think that's just the regular Ethereum compatible DeFi world that is running on the Opera mainnet of Fantom. And the other aspect that Fantom offers you for DeFi is its Fantom Finance platform. That's, I guess you could call it the native exchange of Fantom. And Fantom Finance I mentioned before because you can use these SFTM, these synthetic FTM, that you can mint if you stake, well, let's call them real actual FTM. So then you can mint on Fantom Finance synthetic FTMs in a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you stake 10,000 FTM, then you can mint on Fantom Finance for your use 10,000 SFTM. And those are usable as collateral for trading other synthetic cryptocurrencies on Fantom Finance. Now, what is a static cryptocurrency, you might ask? I think that's a great question you definitely should ask. Uh, it might be a matter of opinion. My opinion on this, and I do put the opinion label on this particular part, synthetic cryptocurrencies are fake cryptocurrencies. So you have on this platform, and there are other platforms working with synthetic cryptocurrencies as well. You have synthetic Bitcoins and synthetic Ethereum, synthetic whatever. And it's just not actual Bitcoin. It's not actual Ethereum. It's not actual whatever. It is just a clone. So I think this is highly suspicious. Why would you even do that in the first place? It is a gambling playground, basically, where you can put real money in to play around with things that don't exist. And this whole synthetic cryptocurrencies thing really reminded me personally, at least, of things like CDOs, quadratic CDOs, and particularly, of course, synthetic CDOs. These things, just if you don't remember or never knew, these are the things that caused the world financial crisis back in the day. Was it, I think it was 2001 or something like that, or 2010. I would have to look up the timing actually. But the last big world financial crisis that was initially caused by the real estate bubble in the United States and then rippled around the world and really ruined economies around the world, was done with high finance instruments that dealt basically with things that do not exist. And synthetic cryptocurrencies always remind me personally of that. You might disagree, and that's totally cool. If you do disagree, let me know. Maybe that would be interesting as well. Now, I said I want to talk a bit about the potential motivation, and this is what I think, what is for me personally the most interesting stuff about Fantom, even more interesting than the technology. Because, as I said before, the technology seems a bit odd. We have only 33% of bad nodes that Fantom can handle, and this is just a step back from things that are older than Fantom. We can only have up to 100 or hundreds, not quite clear on the website on that, nodes, which is, again, it's just an actual step back to technologies that are older. So while they might have a new and interesting consensus model, I personally fail to see the upside, and maybe I just fail to see the upside. That's definitely possible. I might just be wrong, but I think numbers are numbers. So let's get into things that I find even more interesting regarding Fantom than the technology. And let's start with the token distribution and the tokenomics. So for tokenomics, there's really not much to say. Fantom currently has 4 use cases. That is, you can stake the Fantom, you can participate in governance, you can and have to pay transaction costs on Fantom with Fantom. And you can finally, that's the last use case, I mean, you can just send Fantom, right? You can use it as a currency if you so choose, and you have a recipient that's willing to accept Fantom instead of other currencies or cryptocurrencies. The token distribution, though, really, really must make you think, because it's not only interesting, it's just terribly bad. Let me explain why I think that the token distribution or allocation is really super bad in Fantom and is a huge red flag for me personally. Let's start at the top here. 3.15% was the seed sale. This means these were tokens that were sold at an extremely tiny price to very, very few people. Then we have the big chunk on the right, the dark browner chunk on the right, 37.04% have been sold, of all tokens ever, right, have been sold in a private sale. Again, these were tokens that were sold to an extremely small number of people for an extremely tiny price, for a fraction of the public price later. Then let's skip about the 1.57 and go on to the 7.49%. This is the amount of all tokens that were allocated to the team. Then we have another 12% that were allocated to advisors, which you could also call the team. Then we have 6% token reserve. Okay, you can definitely imagine legit use cases for this, marketing, airdrops, and so on. Fair enough. What it is actually and will be used for, time will tell, but it could be legit, fair enough. And then we have the huge part of 32.75% that are reserved for block rewards for the people running the validating nodes. Now, I said before, the validating nodes today, nearly 2 years after launch, are only 47. That's an extremely tiny number. So this means that this whole chunk basically currently goes to 47 entities, let's say 47 people. And of course, it is quite possible, I did not check this, but it's possible, it's thinkable, that of these 47 validators, validating nodes, that maybe one person or one company owns more than one of these nodes. So we might be talking about even less than 47 persons, 47 persons or entities to which the block rewards will go. And this finally leaves us with only 1.57%, 1.5% basically, of all Fantom that will ever exist that have been sold to the public. And all the rest, over 98%, if you want to be diplomatic, and I don't want to be diplomatic, quite frankly, but I might be wrong about that. If you want to be diplomatic, you can say the 6%, okay. So then we are still at 92%, but I will stick with my number. 98% of all tokens, of all FTM, go to an extremely tiny number of people. 98% go to a tiny, tiny number of people. And I mean, this, to me personally, this just screams money grab. This is the absolute opposite of decentralization. Why would you do such a token allocation if not with the goal to have a few people have this, so you have a bigger number of holders with tiny, tiny amounts, the 1.57%, do good marketing and so on, and get the price up and then dump everything onto the public and crash the price. I can't imagine a different future than this for Fantom. The numbers speak for themselves. Enough from my side about the allocation. Maybe to just reiterate once more, 1.57% of all tokens have been sold to the public. All the rest is in a tiny, tiny number of hands. And this is the most centralized token allocation I have ever come across. Obviously, I don't know most projects. There's tens of thousands of projects, and I know a lot less than 1% of them, that's clear. But of everything I've ever looked at, this is by far the worst and the most centralized, just unsocial, quite frankly, token allocation I've ever come across. So this was really interesting for me to see. Then we have the other problems. The minimum stake for a validator is 1 million Fantom. Then I took a note for myself, see current price. So let's just do that. What's the current price? It is, let me refresh that to make sure, it looks to be $2.55. It is $2.47. All right, let's say $2.50. This means if you want to run a node, you have to have $2.5 million. That's the minimum you need to be allowed to run a validating node, participate in securing the network, and earn rewards for doing that. And this is one of the main reasons, I guess it's maybe the main reason why there's only 47 validators after 2 years, because it is an extremely exclusive club who has 2.5 million lying around. I'm sure this was a bit less a few months ago, but even if it's just 1 million, even if it's just $100,000, that still means that most people cannot do that. And then you can think, even people who do have a few million or a few 100,000, would they choose to do that if it's that expensive? I think many would not. So let me show you that I didn't make these numbers up of the 47 validators, right? So we have the Fantom Explorer, that's FTM Scan. This is basically a Fantom block explorer made by the Etherscan guys. And here it shows you 60 validators. But as you can see a bit further down, the only validators that have a non-zero stake are numbers 1 to 47. Number 48 to 60 has 0 stake and is not active. And this means we only have 47 validators. And on the explorer.fantom.network, that's the Fantom block explorer from the Fantom team itself. We have the same thing. It shows us 60 validators, but we can see the self-staked amount is 0 for 13 of those, and this means that those 13 are not participating, and this means that in fact we really do only have 47 validators, and that is very, very bad. I mean, it's extremely centralized. It's just not decentralization. And if you are in the blockchain and DLT and crypto space, you really should care about decentralization, because the whole space is about so much more than making money. Making money is actually not at all what cryptos are about. Cryptos are about freedom, and freedom is decentralization. Decentralization is freedom. This is not it. Fantom is not it. And then there was another thing on the website that was, well, it wasn't shocking after seeing the token allocation. The token allocation was shocking. After that, I couldn't be shocked anymore. But it was another real hard letdown. And this is that Fantom, amongst other things that they would like to work with, want to work with central banks to provide CBDCs, central banking digital currencies. This is a screenshot from their website, so you can see I'm not making this up either. It is really sad. Central bank digital currency, one of the things they would like to do. Why is this really sad? Because, well, central banks are the absolute opposite of decentralization and, quite frankly, of freedom. They are just not friends of humanity, as banks are not in general. So why are you in the crypto and the DeFi space if you want to reinforce the old system and use blockchain to make fiat currencies digital, which are all about having control about the currency in the hands of the banks and not in your hands? That's literally what the fiat system is about. And the opposite, the decentralized world, is to give you control and ownership over your assets. So, I mean, this just, for me, this just fit the very bad impression I got from the token allocation. It's basically saying, hello, enemy of crypto, and hello, enemy of decentralization. We would love to work with you guys. I personally don't like that a lot. All of this does not mean that you can't make money with Fantom, right? So let's not, I'm not saying you can't make money with Fantom or on Fantom. I'm just saying I don't like these aspects that, yeah. And you make your own opinion on that, right? This is a bit opinionated. I will not deny that. The numbers are true, though. The numbers are not made up, but you interpret those however you would like to interpret those, of course. And I would like to wrap up this presentation, which was a bit less tech and a bit more non-tech than others, with a few quotes from the website, from the Fantom website, Fantom Foundation's website, and my opinion on those quotes. So one quote is that Fantom is a high-performance, scalable, and secure smart contract platform, where I would say secure, okay, high performance, yes, actually scalable, not so much, because they said themselves, Lachesis can only work with up to hundreds of nodes, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands. So I wouldn't call it scalable. And secure certainly is very much a question as well, because they can only deal with up to 33% of malicious nodes, whereas even Bitcoin, the first cryptocurrency, can deal with up to 50% of malicious nodes, which is where the term 51% attack comes from, right? Because you need over 50% of all nodes under your control if you want to do some fraud on Bitcoin. And here you only need over 33%. So this just seems like a step back in security to me personally. Then the next quote is that Fantom is permissionless. That is true. Is decentralized and open source. It is open source. That is also correct. It is absolutely not decentralized in no way. We just said that we have 47 nodes. And of these 47 nodes, with a 33% only that Fantom can deal with bad nodes, it means that you only need 16 nodes. You only need 16 nodes to take over the Fantom network completely. That's a tiny number. And I would assume that many people that run nodes know each other, because I would assume that the people running the nodes are also the people that were A, the team, and B, the early investor, because who else has that many Fantoms? It's those guys that did not buy their Fantoms in the public sale. That's who. So it's absolutely not decentralized. And the token allocation is even less decentralized than the network itself is. So that's just flat out not true. And again, another quote is that they are providing a good degree of decentralization. No, it does not. And it does not use delegated proof of stake. I don't know why they say this is just the wrong statement. Yes, it does use delegated proof of stake, which you can see on the, I should have mentioned when I showed you the overview of the nodes that, of the validating nodes. There it has the self stake, and in another column, it has the delegated stake, and then it has the overall stake. So the block explorer itself shows you that it is using delegated proof of stake. I don't know why they have this wrong statement on their website. And this next thing, this is just basically a slap into the face and factually hardcore wrong, but it's also so wrong, it's basically offensive to the established cryptocurrencies and communities behind those that actually are for freedom and decentralization. So the quote goes as follows: unlike proof of work used by Bitcoin and Ethereum, proof of stake prevents centralization. So the first part implies that proof of work does not prevent centralization. This statement is not true. And then also it says proof of stake prevents centralization. So in theory, it could, fair enough. But when it comes to Fantom in particular, it absolutely doesn't, does it? Because if you set a minimum stake that basically no one can afford, apart from people that are already super rich, then you are absolutely furthering centralization. It is designed to be centralized, and they said the opposite, and it's just not true. So to also show this off a bit more, how very wrong this statement is, let's have a look at the distribution currently of holders of the FTM token. So we can see here, this is on CoinMarketCap, we can see here that the top 10 holders have 52.87% of all Fantoms, of all Fantom tokens. 10 people basically, addresses. We don't really know even if maybe a few of these addresses are owned by the same person. That's quite possible. We don't know that. What we do know is the top 10 addresses own 52.87%, and that's just a ton. The top means over half of all tokens in just 10 hands, and some of these hands might belong to the same person. The top 100 holders own basically 76%. So 3 out of 4 tokens that exist are distributed between 100 hands. And this they call decentralized. Now let's have a look at Bitcoin, which they call centralized. The top 10 holders on Bitcoin own 5.38% of all Bitcoin. And this is, it's 10% only of what we have on Fantom. Here we have roughly 53%, and on Bitcoin we have 5.3% owned by the top 10 holders. So you couldn't make a more wrong statement than saying that Fantom is more decentralized than Bitcoin. The absolute opposite is the actual truth. The top 100 Bitcoin holders are owning 13.3%. This is compared to 76% with Fantom. So not only is it extremely centralized, they also flat out lie to your face about that. I'm not a fan of lying. I really, really don't like that. That rubs me the wrong way. Just don't pretend to be decentralized if you're not. Then I think it's fine. This is why I don't have such a big problem with Binance Smart Chain. I'm not a huge fan, but it works really well. I'm not denying that. And Binance Smart Chain never pretended to be centralized. Never pretended to be decentralized. The Binance people themselves call it centralized, decentralized finance because they are honest about it. They completely acknowledge that Binance Smart Chain is super centralized, and that is that's fine in my book. It's honest. That's all I ask. Fantom people, at least the people who wrote these particular quotes I have here, are not honest. I dislike that. And this is the last slide. Then we can have a chat if you like to. They say that the consensus mechanism can also scale to 100 of nodes. This is either a typo. I'm not sure if they wanted to say hundreds of nodes. They do say 100 of nodes, or if they actually mean just up to 100 of nodes. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and say they do mean hundreds, not just 100. And they say that this increases decentralization and therefore security. This is a complete nonsense statement because, well, if we have only even just a few hundreds of nodes, then it's not that decentralized, is it? Why is it not thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of nodes? Why does that not work? So they're saying our very tiny number of nodes is increasing decentralization. That statement makes no sense whatsoever. Technologies that are a lot older can work with many, many more nodes. Technologies that have come out at a similar time can work with a not quite, but for effective purposes, basically infinite number of nodes. So I have no idea what they're talking about here. It just makes no sense, this statement. So basically, either you only have a few hundreds of nodes, or you are decentralized. You can't have a tiny number of nodes and call yourself decentralized. It's just the opposite of what the word means. And then the last statement, the last quote I want to make my own statement on is that Fantom is permissionless. That is true. Anybody can use it. And then it says anyone can run a node. This is flat out extremely not true. Why is that? Because only multimillionaires can afford to buy enough Fantom to run a node. Because, as I said, 1 million minimum stake, right? This is just not anyone. Nearly no one, but nearly no one, if we talk about all the people on the planet, nearly nobody can run a node for financial reasons alone. And even if we take all the multimillionaires, maybe that's all Fantom cares about. Maybe they just don't consider people that are not multimillionaires people. Who knows? I don't know. But even if we only talk about all the multimillionaires, even they can't run all a node because the technology doesn't give that. The technology, this is a quote from Fantom themselves, says they can at max run a few hundreds of nodes. If you have thousands of nodes, the network doesn't work anymore. So this statement is just wrong on every level. It's wrong on the financial level because nearly nobody can afford to run a node. And it's wrong on a technical level because they only can deal with a few hundreds of nodes, nothing more.